All right. From what I'm seeing, it looks like we're ready to begin, but you all are in the room. So is that how it looks to you as well?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and do a roll call for the board, please.
Lee Phelan, president. Present.
Julie Field, treasurer.
John McKay, UC Health Liaison.
Sarah Hathcock, secretary.
Great. I'm Erin Hottenstein, also present remotely. So we have a quorum present, so let's call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And it's customary for us to go around the room and introduce all staff, and then if there are any online. So love to hear names and titles. So if you all could kick that off in the room, that'd be great.
Sure. Brian Farron, Executive Director. Good to see everyone.
Jackie Ferrero, board clerk and executive assistant.
Michael Oliver, Information System Specialist. Juan Gonzalez, I'm helping run the meeting today with ICE and Zoom. I believe that's everyone.
That's everyone. for
All
staff.
the staff, right?
Mike is online, he's still muted, but he is there.
Any others?
Does it feel anything so Justin?
I see Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica Holmes, Controller, Finance Officer.
Okay, awesome. And then do we have any other guests or members of the, or do we have any guests that we need to introduce?
Can you hear us over here on the side?
Barely.
Can you?
They haven't been introduced to him.
Okay, well, I guess the guests can speak when it's their turn and introduce themselves then, and same with the public for public comment. So why don't we move on if that's all
Oh.
right?
We actually have a microphone we're passing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all right.
I'm Casey Johns with the Ira Center.
And I am Casey Cash with the Ira Center.
I'm Natalie Wells with Hyde Bailey.
Jason Olson with IPO.
Wonderful. All right. I see one more. Ellie?
Hi, yes. For some reason I can't have my camera on, but yes, Elizabeth Laboon, legal counsel. Don't have a camera.
Sorry, not me to
All right.
press that, I apologize.
All right, well, welcome one and all. Let's move on to our conflict of interest statement. Board of Directors, pursuant to the bylaws, please disclose any known or perceived conflicts of interest related to any agenda item. The Health District is committed to preventing the personal interest of the board, employees, and independent contractors from interfering with their duties to the organization and avoiding any unethical financial, professional, or political gain on the part of such individuals. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare at this time?
None.
No.
None.
No.
And none for me either. All right, so let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the April 22nd, 2026 meeting agenda as presented?
So moved.
A second?
So that was Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Sorry. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so we're at the point in the meeting where we have public comment. Is there anyone in the room that has walked in since we did the introductions that would be there to give public comment?
No, we don't have anybody in the room.
All right, and is there anyone online?
If anyone online wants to speak, please feel free to raise your hand and you can be provided those permissions.
Are you seeing anybody new online?
No.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then I will skip reading all the public comment statements that we usually read. Okay, all right. So seeing as we have no public comment, we will move on to the next portion of our meeting, which is presentations. And so I see that we have Iris Center here, so would love to invite Dr. Johns to, is it that we're going to have speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You're getting.
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson's feeling. She's in her 5th week of illness.
Oh, gosh, and my voice will hold out for a few minutes, so,
Oh, gosh.
she's gonna do most of the talking and I'm gonna chime in a little bit.
We appreciate you being here.
There is a clicker to your right.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, thank you guys. I very much appreciate your invitation here. It's been wonderful working with Courtney for gosh, almost a year now. Yeah, since summertime. So
If you guys can try directing a little more towards the mic, that way we can all hear you in the Zoom call.
yes, of course. Thank you. That's weird for me. Okay, I'm a mover. But we've been working with the health district, and because of their support, we've been able to create a really amazing thing that we're here to present to you. So you know what we do. We certainly utilize the health district for our patients and this back and forth kind of thing. Oh my gosh. This is okay. You're a liar. It's awesome.
I swear.
Sweet.
Try one more time.
It's you touching.
There it is. Okay. I did. So you should recognize these, right? These are your 4 strategic focus areas. What really struck me is how closely and seamlessly the Iris Center values and focuses really align with yours. Champion the power shift from conglomerates, venture capitalists, corporations, and shift that back to the patient and the provider. We're super passionate about that. That is the main reason we started the Iris Center as corporate medicine refugees. Refugees. But you know, the patient and the provider, those are the 2 people in that relationship that really understand someone's health. Not a corporation. The advancing health and well-being. Again, we align really well. We don't view health as being simply a pill to give someone. Sometimes that is the answer, but most of the time it's more, you have a home. Do you have food? What is your mental health looking like? Do you have dental care? Do you have prenatal care? Right, all of these things create health. It's not one aspect of a single human, it's a whole person. Community solutions. We developed our own, and we depend heavily on our community. And because of the community, we've been able to thrive in our very under a year that we've been operating. And I'll discuss that a little bit more. But if we're not proof of community driven solutions, I'm not quite sure I know of one other than you guys maybe. And then reimagine systems. Hallelujah, right? I don't know if you remember up there that radically human healthcare, right? That is not just a fancy slogan. We believe that. We believe healthcare is human. And right now we've been so inundated and indoctrinated to the system of healthcare to believe this is how it is, deal with it or you don't get care. That's not how it is. That's not how it was. And we're just trying to shed light back on how medicine was designed to be. A right and not a luxury. So I thought that was really cool when I was putting this together, so. It's not working again. What are you doing over there?
Go ahead.
She's feisty, watch out.
Yeah, feisty too. So why did we need the Iris Center? Why do we need people like us? To influence change? Well, in 2025, right, this is not news to you. The uninsured rate was 5.9%. That rate hasn't changed, since the
You know what we need?
yeah, the implementation of the Affordable Care Act in 2014. So that's 345,000 people without insurance. 12.8% of those people are at or below the federal poverty level, right? Further, it's expected that 195,000 more will lose their insurance this year.
You're looking at two of them.
Yes, we are looking at two of them. So that's really scary for Coloradans. That's really scary for providers who realize that when people don't have health insurance, they don't see care. They don't go to the emergency room when they really probably should. They don't get their follow-up care that continue the trajectory. Right? So, I don't think I've pulled this down now. So, again, why are we changing this? 54% of Americans say healthcare quality is only and to horrible, right? Fair to poor. That's not good enough for us. That is the lowest rating since 2001, and it's had a steady decline in that 24-year history. Only 19% are satisfied with its cost. With the cost of care being recognized and the most urgent health problem facing the US. So 23% claim its cost, and then 14% claim it's the access to care is the biggest problems with healthcare right now. So this hurts as a provider. 7 in 10 Americans view negatively on the healthcare for coverage and quality. I have her, so you have me. So we're set. Yes. Okay. So, okay, I'm gonna take those off. So,
You don't go to this stuff?
yeah, please,
Right?
yeah.
So what we call, so we kind of made up our plan. And when we kind of decided to leave corporate medicine, we said there has to be a better way, right? And we sat for a long time at my kitchen table and said, what is the better way? Because there has to be a better way. And we couldn't find a model that was what we thought was the better way in our country. So we said, well, that's dumb. Let's create the better way. And so we literally brainstormed and said, what would we want the perfect system to look like? And we said, we wanted it to be affordable. We wanted it to have access, and we wanted it to have quality care. And we as providers didn't want to feel like we were going crazy every day and that we could go home and take care of our families. We wanted to have a quality of life as well. And we wanted our staff to be happy, because if we're happy, our patients get better care. And we really were looking at the idea that spending 10 minutes with our patients wasn't allowing them the quality of care, and it wasn't allowing us as providers to get to the bottom of problems, because you don't have the time to get into, oh, you don't have food. Oh, your diabetes is terrible because you're living off of ramen noodles. And you can't fix the bigger problems that are the root of a lot of their health problems. So in our model, what we came up with is we threw out insurance. Because a lot of the money is in chasing the dollars from the insurance. And instead of spending $500 to get 10, we thought, why don't we just charge what it actually costs? Right? But that wouldn't actually entirely fund the whole system, because we would need to see 500 patients a day to support us. So we thought, well, how else can we support this? So we thought, well, we have a really good community that wants better healthcare. So let's look to our community to support us. So what we really started doing, I'm sorry, I'm a walker too, is we started looking at how can the community support us in a way that's viable for all the community members on a level that's reasonable. So In our total model, we became a 501(c)(3) because we're also both not millionaires and we had to be able to open the clinic. So it allowed us to fundraise and grassroots build our clinic. So everything in our clinic was donated to us from the community and from every one of our patients, from the chairs to the flooring, to the beautiful new lights that we have, and everything in there. And in our model, if a certain percentage, it comes out to about 30% of our patients donate $1,000 a year, it funds our entire program. With that program, our visits are $35 for a 30-minute visit and $55 for a 60-minute visit. With this, people are paying cash for that, but everything outside of our office, they can use their insurance for. Because if you have it, you might as well use it, right? And you might go get hit by a bus, so you do need to have insurance. What if something catastrophic happens, you get breast cancer or something, right? We are never advocating for people not to have insurance, and we're not a membership. Because we didn't want people to have to pay every month and pay a larger fee above their insurance to be able to get care. So that was, we took kind of little bits from each program. So if you need an MRI, you can use your insurance. If you need a referral, if you need medications, it'll be covered. However, we've been able to contract out a lot of things that when we don't have to use the insurance companies, we can get things for astronomically much lower prices. So a lot of our patients choose not to use their insurance. Our lipid panel is $5. Our COVID flu test is $10, 5 for flu, 5 for COVID. Our strep test is $5. Our PAP is $35. And so, for example, there are some labs that we offer for $7 and they're $480 at UC Health. So we encourage them to use their insurance and to go to our partners in the community when they have insurance, because we want to support all of our other providers in the community. But if it's cheaper to do it cash pay at our system, they will. We don't make our money that way. We don't make the money off of what we charge our patients in the office. The funding comes from our community and our community supporters. And so we also say sometimes one person can't donate $1,000 a year, but if 5 people donate 200, that gives us that $1,000 person. And then the biggest crux of all of this goes back to that radically human concept that everyone who walks in our door can be seen for the person who they are. There's so many people in our healthcare system, whether it be their ethnicity, whether it be their body size, whether it be their gender, whether it be their chronic illness, don't feel safe in our healthcare system. They don't feel safe to tell their doctor what they're going through, and they don't feel safe or seen by their healthcare system anymore. And so one of our biggest cruxes is that we want to be a place where you can come in no matter what you look like, what you sound like, who you are, where you come from. You will be seen and cared for and heard. Because only by seeing and hearing people do you actually help them in their health. So many people feel, I almost want to say, violated by our healthcare system because they don't feel like their providers hear them. And I think it's the way the system has progressed. I don't think that actual providers want to be that way. It's just the way our system, in 10 minutes, you can't hear someone. So we've really focused on that to be able to have that relationship centered, evidence-based care that we can provide and really provide really good quality care at a very reasonable price. And we'll just throw in there that part of us starting has been with you guys being able to give us a home to do that, which is such a beautiful.
So that we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, so, but I do also want to point out that we did, build into our budget and our plan that about a third of our patients would not be able to afford $35. So we do have a sliding scale policy that some annual federal poverty level, that people can apply to. And we also have, the ability to see people pro bono if needed. So we've worked really, really hard on that and we're pretty darn. Anybody recognize that? That cute little thing, right? That door is always locked. Don't go in that door. Go around.
And we won't eat you when you're not.
Yes, so, that is 425 West Mulberry Street, Suite 112. That is the very, very generous gift that the health district has, leased out to us to home our clinic and our patients and our staff. It's a beautiful space if you haven't been there. We didn't change much except get rid of the carpet because blood and carpet they keep. So if you haven't, stop by.
Come see us.
It's a really great space. But this is just showing you, we started seeing patients. Yeah, like October 28th, 29th. So, yeah, November, December, January, February, March. Our numbers have been steadily increasing. These are new patient appointments. These aren't returning patient appointments. I haven't checked.
We
This
just,
week
we
where we
just
are.
cracked our 900th new patient.
That was a week ago.
That was a week ago,
That was a
yeah.
week
So we're
ago.
well over that.
So,
And I saw patients on my own through January. Casey wasn't able to start seeing patients with me until January.
Yeah.
So thus the doubling of patient volume.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're very proud of those numbers, especially with Dr. Johns being all by her lonesome for the first 2 months, basically.
It was fun.
It was fun. This is one of the doorways that we have into one of our rooms. So how do we partner? Because of the health district support and sharing your space with us, we are able to offer most services under the cost of, right? Longer visits have increased access, oddly enough, to patients because we can address the root cause of issues. We can address multiple issues at one visit instead of saying our 10 minutes is up. I'm so sorry, you have to come back. Okay. We actually are building accessibility by shortening our patient load during the day. That was a very big surprise to us as well. Yeah, so the building itself is warm, welcoming, and while we have purposefully limited the cold clinical feel, our patients feel this. They come in and they go, oh my gosh, what a beautiful space. Like, this is just so different and so lovely. Again, this goes back to treating that whole person. Only one room in our clinic is actually really, really clinical. It's got the bed and the lights and the things and the hoses and the tubes and all that stuff. All the others have a couch and a chair. And I have to have my roly-weely doctor chair because I've earned it, right? So that's really what it is. We have fidgets, we have blankets. We allow people to be what they need to be in that moment, to be able to share what may be a very happy moment with them and what may be a very dramatic moment with them. We really wanted it to be a home-like feel to remove that fear. The reason fear is such a huge player is because trauma, no matter what kind of trauma is linked to 90% of all chronic pain cases. Trauma survivors have 50% more increase in diabetes. Low income adolescents are 3 times more likely to experience trauma. And LGBTQ plus youth experience 2 times higher trauma than their heterosexual peers. And 37% of adults have 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, which increases the risk of chronic disease by 7 times. It's from a statistic on the market data report. Getting that. Oh, I forgot this one. Okay. No, I'm good. We're good. Okay. So, I personally, and I know I speak for Stacy and I know I speak for our staff, our whopping staff of 3. But we truly thank the health district for the space to help us follow our passion and support our combined missions and really hope that our partnership with the space will continue into the next year. And just thank you so much for all you do for our community, and we're really trying to give back to that community. Any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Go first.
Okay, so I'm wondering, what accessibility for multilingual learners or specifically our Spanish speakers? Okay,
Nice.
What do you speak Spanish?
Okay.
My Spanish has gotten rustier. I worked at Salute for over 10 years,
Okay.
where probably 80% of my patients were only Spanish speaking. So I feel pretty comfortable. We also have language lines if need be.
Okay.
I always make sure that people feel comfortable with my Spanish because I always feel that if I'm not getting across to them what I need to,
Right.
I will be the first to say, even though I may speak this, I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying because you deserve that.
Right.
So I have no problem getting a translator. Also, I'm fluent in German as well, but they're not a lot of
Wow.
German people around here who need me to do that. It's really, although it's mixed in with a lot of Spanish nowadays, which, because I speak it more, but, and then, any other languages?
I know sign language, but yeah, we utilize language line and, all the fun translation services that everybody else does.
We don't have all of our website translatable. I mean, it's translatable. We don't have everything in dual language yet. It is something we're working on with all of our handouts and stuff. We do have a ton of all the local community handouts. We have it both languages, in both English and Spanish. For people, we having worked at Salute for so long, I feel pretty connected to the community. Several of my closest friends are very involved in the community in multi-language perspectives and really help make sure we're connected and knowing when we can get people help. We also, our fiscal sponsor for a while was La Cocina. And so that was helpful too, to make sure we had good connections, make sure to have all the resources we need to make sure. One of the things we're spending so much time trying to connect people with resources. We hope that soon some point we'll be able to hire some sort of social worker or care coordinator. I think would be really helpful for us. Just because a lot of what we do is kind of, we do the medicine, but we believe so much that medicine is not just the pills. And when you address the health disparities and the home disparities, and especially to address specifically the Latino community right now, they're terrified. It's a really horrible time for them right now, and there's so much fear. And I think giving them a safe place to come and have us help people. I always love to be like, if I can get you free food, you can pay for your medicines, right? Or like taking away any fear that they have a safe place to always come. So I hope that answered the question. Sorry, so I'm not supposed to talk. That is something be really worrying. Yeah, I'm not doing it. Sorry. Any other questions?
That was one of my questions, but I have two other little questions. One is, how are most people finding out about you? And what are the ages that you?
We are birth to death.
Okay.
She catches them.
I used to, but I gave it up.
Yeah, so you don't catch the babies, but once they're out, they can come to us. So from cradle to grave, that's our scope. We are family practice physicians. How did people find out about us? We were very grassroots, word of mouth. Stacy is quite the physician celebrity in Fort Collins, so you go onto Reddit and things like that, and you'll see, where did Stacy Johns go? Oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. I heard she's over here. And so while we don't personally have a social media presence, one, we don't have the staff to manage that narrative. Two, social media, icky. That is how people have found out about us. So we have truly been word of mouth, and so we got our website up and running.
We also didn't want to explode faster than we could care for
Of
people.
course.
Because one of our things, we don't want to have a 6-month waiting period because that's not taking care of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like by just having people find us, it's really allowed us to do it very organically. One thing I will say that we are missing is we don't have vaccines currently because they're extremely expensive to purchase.
Yeah.
And so, and since we're not filing insurance, it is a large hole for us. We have worked incredibly hard to try to find a partner. And we have gone to many of the organizations in town and have really struck out. So over the age of 3, they can go to pharmacies, but we have working with maybe a couple more, but we're trying really hard to fill that hole in because it is something we believe strongly in, but are struggling to offer. Fortunately, a couple of our partners, I'm not going to mention, but do help us out and we'll see our patients if they need vaccinated for, they'll see us for something, so they go to them for vaccines. So trying to fill the holes, but it just in true transparency, that is in a true full family practice setting, I do think you must have vaccines, and that's one that we're missing because we just can't fund it right now.
We're very finicky. You know, use them
they go bad quickly.
Yeah.
And we looked at buying a set of just one recently and we're like $10,000.
Anything else?
Where does the name come from?
Oh my gosh, okay. The Iris Center. It comes from years of brainstorming on back porches and kitchens. So the Iris Center can mean a few different things. We thought of it because of the demigod Iris. She was the communication vessel between the mortals and the gods, communicating the mortals' wishes to the gods via rainbows. Okay, so that is one definition. The other is if you look at an iris, it is both looking like a penis and a vulva. So,
Well, corporate is everyone.
so.
That's good,
Right?
yeah.
And then, also, we see you. That's
Part
the
of
part
it.
of the eye that we see through. Now, somebody walks in asking for glasses. Sorry, there's a little vision down the road, but, that's okay. So maybe they need help here. So that's where the name comes from. Thank you for asking.
Thank you
Anything
for
else?
giving so much thought to it.
It was a lot.
It was a minute, yeah.
Anything else before we let you guys know?
I have just one more question about, I mean, one of the groups within our community that I'm particularly concerned about in Northern Larimer County are the uninsured, because of the fact that Salud, being our major safety net clinic, is not able to take new uninsured patients unless there are a few exceptions to that. But I was curious if that is a group that when reaching out to Salud and not being able to find care, if you guys are a known alternative.
We are, but again, we have to be careful because we can't serve
Right.
everybody for free,
Yeah, I
right?
understand.
Because our model works off about a third being sliding scale and pro bono.
And we don't have the funding for that right now. Like Casey and I aren't collecting a salary currently.
Yeah.
So we would like to be able to pay ourselves before we entirely give
I
a ton of
understand.
pro bono
Yeah,
care away.
of
I mean, as much
course,
as we are currently doing some of that, but you know, that is our goal, is to be able to see a third of our patients pro bono. So a part of it has to do with, you know, the first year you've ramping up our funding base, and we are on target and we are in the black every month. So, and we have no debt.
Mhm.
So it's right. So I think those are some good markers. We're working.
We have that.
Well, you and I. Yes, but not in the business. So, the only other thing I would say is my only fear in doing that, as much as I would love to do that, is the amount of resources that we can give to them. We are a very small team, and having been there and knowing what all the Salutes and the family medicine centers offer, we don't have a lot of those resources. We don't have the social workers or the
Of
behavioral
course.
health. Although we dream of that and we do hope to have that someday. We are technically the Iris Project with Iris Center underneath it, because we built it that way on purpose to be a tree. Because again, this is what we know, right? But we believe so much that it's everything else, right? So we're gonna build this and then eventually we'll add all the other branches, but so I would just keep that in mind. If someone who maybe doesn't need a lot of those resources, we would be a great resource, but we do a lot of gender care as well. So I do think if there's someone in that service that cannot receive it there because of current federal stature, I would say 100% send them to help. We are working on some revenue streams that will allow us to have funds for pro bono care,
Wonderful.
specifically for gender related care for those patients that cannot receive it elsewhere.
And just so everyone knows, we are the only in-clinic person to person clinic in the state that is doing gender care and years of freedom. It is only us. And we still have out of state patients as well. So, we are really excited for our colleagues to do something similar, right? And they're doing it. A lot of it is online though, and you can't do everything online.
You can't see them as well. The person to person trauma goes away when you're person. A lot of our patients just like to lay down on the couch and come be safe.
Great questions. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So you're a 501c3, so you do fundraising. You talked about different patients contributing. Do you have any community initiatives for community members to contribute?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. When we say, you know, about 25-30% of our patients. Surprisingly, most of it's coming from not our patients. We got a wonderful, beautiful little check in the mail from.
Somebody.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
Right, anonymous. We got a lovely email from someone who lives in Michigan. We've never seen them. And they're like, I'm donating to you. I've heard about your mission. I really love it. Hang in there.
And an older patient of mine that I have yet to see yet, who sent me a card, was like, I love what you're doing. This is needed in healthcare. So I love the model and send us a check. Yes, so.
So we are at that crux of every business where it's like, we're maxed. As far as manpower and man hours. While also taking care and doing our job. So
Right.
we're looking, we have a really good board that is. Like always thinking of ideas and we're like, that's amazing, set that up because.
That's their job.
We can't do that, right? But they're a new board, we are a new board, so they're learning along with us. It's quite a different vibe from in here. I was like. So we're really proud of them. We always need more community outreach stuff, right? I mean, I do have some very wealthy people in a town this size.
But we've not been able to access a lot.
That we can't access. And we're a little Robin Hood, right? While we're not stealing from the rich, we're having the ones with donate a little, so the ones without can give back into the community. They might not be able to financially give back, but they can give out. And that's really important to us, so. Yeah.
Really focus on first year and get going and
Sure.
functioning in our, and we've really been shifting now that we're fully functional and like really ramped up and going, to really kind of, okay, how do we branch out to kind of having some initiatives, and that's what our last board meeting was all about, like, okay, what do we figure out for the next year as far as like, now that we have everybody signed?
Nice,
The salaries.
Yeah,
All right.
nice.
anything else? Anything
Yeah, I
else?
guess I'd just like to say thank you so much for your
Mhm.
service. And this, Brian, to you and to the team, first, thank you for establishing the partnership and the care. But this is exactly value aligned and what I would expect to see for the type of partnership and support moving forward when we think about
Absolutely.
the
Yeah,
role
as
of
we're
the health
building.
district and
Yeah.
the power that we can provide in partnership to the people actually doing the work.
100%.
Thank you for supporting us.
Yeah.
I, just, so you know, I probably, like, I feel a little bit like an walking advertisement for you guys. Cause every time someone comes in our room and is like, these rooms are beautiful, look at the windows. I say literally every time, this building is owned by the health district. Did you know that? And they just look at me, I was like, do you know all the amazing things they do? We wouldn't be here without them. So, and they just go, wow, that's great. And I feel a little like,
And we
and I'm like, and they don't pay me
definitely
to say that.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I
And we
like,
make sure you go, not the health department.
and we do.
Right.
That's what we do. I literally probably every day and they look at me like, they're so great. And I do feel like I should have a badge on, like, yeah. Cause I'm just that thankful because I really,
Thank
it was
you.
one of the things we were struggling of how do we find a space? And I really feel
Yeah,
like we wouldn't have good here, but they've got guys.
Nice.
Very generous.
Do you refer your clients to our dental services and other
Absolutely.
services?
All the time.
Okay.
Just yesterday, in fact.
Good.
Two patients. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we have another presentation on our forensic audit. And so I'd like to invite up to the podium the Eide Bailey representatives.
All right, good evening, members of the board, members of management. I am very happy to be able to present to you in person for our forensic accounting report in regards to the RFP 2025-1005, the forensic audit. And before we get started, a few things that I kind of just want to point out is that I just of course, want to thank you all for the opportunity just to present our report to you, as well as thank every personnel who helped, gather information, answer our questions, take the time. It is a lot. They have duties of their own and, pulling as many samples as we did, as many transactions as we did. It's a lot of work and we appreciate everything that they provided and all the timely responses that they gave. One other item that I do want to cover, just to make sure that everyone understands that this was not a financial audit, so we did not provide a audit opinion within our report. We really did, our engagement consisted of forensic accounting consulting services. So this really has identified risk indicators and control gaps. So that's what we reported on within our report.
Natalie, can I ask, do we have the report? I know I had the privilege of seeing a draft report, but do the members of the board have the final report? Or is it still in draft form?
No, it is final. I provided prior to the 15th. So from what I understood, it was going to be disseminated to the board.
Yeah, and I don't remember seeing it on the website or in the packet for the meeting today. Did I miss that?
Should have been in the packet.
It's up for.
Just the 19 report, right?
Yeah, I looked for it and didn't see it, so.
Oh, okay. We will get that.
Yeah, that needs to be,
everybody.
yeah, and it needs to be
Yeah.
available
published.
to the
Yep,
public.
Yep.
Mhm. Thank you.
Right, so I'm gonna cover an engagement overview, an overview of our executive summary, and then I'm gonna dive into a little bit more detail into each exact section that we took a look at. So the engagement purpose and scope, I want to cover that quickly. So our scope period was January 1st of 2022 through December 31st of 2024. And part of our procedures was that we did interview around 25 individuals that included health district personnel, as well as external service providers and a former employee as well. And so the purpose of our engagement was to identify indicators of fraud, misuse, or misappropriation of assets. And also to evaluate fraud risk across key financial and operational processes. So across your accounts payable, your accounts receivable, your cash handling, things like that. The main observation that we came out with after a review of all the transactions and all of the interviews was that there was no fraud or misuse identified, but there was multiple internal control weaknesses that were found during our scope period. And we believe that it had to do with significant leadership turnover. So within our scope period, there was 3 executive directors and 3 interim executive directors, as well as a huge turnover in the finance department. So there's around 7 individuals in that finance department. And within 6 months, 6 individuals left the organization. So they left with a lot of information and knowledge, which, gave attribute to the internal weaknesses that we identified. And then also within our report, we provided 53 recommendations. And so these are really to strengthen your controls, which will strengthen your segregation duties as well as your process consistencies. And so later on, we'll go over those, but a majority of those have been implemented or are in process. And so we'll go over which ones, number wise are implemented and which ones are still in progress. So some financial transactions, I want to go over the banking and P card activity first. And so in the banking activity, we looked over 8,200 transactions. So this is your outflows and inflows or your, your purchases, your deposits within your bank transactions. And so that amounted to be around $163 million. So we did some high level examinations for irregularities and unauthorized activity. So we compared the general ledger to the bank activity to make sure that everything that was in the bank was actually reported in the general ledger. And so we saw minor differences, but that was normal. It's all due to timing, when it actually hits the bank, when when checks are actually, things like that. And then we also compared what the check payee said within the bank and what was actually recorded in your general ledger. So we didn't know any, misappropriation of assets in that way. We also looked at your bank reconciliations to see if they were done timely. So we chose a sample of bank reconciliations and we did identify that some lacked timely preparation. There was no indication of some review on those bank reconciliations. And there was some segregation of duties issues in regards to those. So the same individual who wrote checks and was able to add vendors was also reconciling the bank. In regards to the P card transaction analysis, we looked at 5,000 purchases, which totaled around $1.76 million. And so those showed a lot of routine spending, but we did, again, we noted control weaknesses there as well. So we chose samples from the bank as well as the P card to take a look at the underlying supporting documentation. And so a few things how we determined that was we ran some data analytic procedures as well as annual variance. 1 year they had an increased amount of spending, and then all of a sudden that vendor didn't. Those were some of the ones that we selected, as well as professional judgment. Some of the P card control deficiencies was that we did note some self-review. So the P card statements that we saw, the same person who's spending on that P card was also reviewing it. There was some missing receipts in our transactions, and there was some unclear purposes that were highlighted. But you'll note in the report, if you haven't seen it, a lot of what we found in comparison to our total amount that we tested, it was very low. So it did not cause anything of a major red flag for us to say, yes, this is a problem.
Do you know what percent that would have been?
They're different for each one, but I have the report in front of me, so I can check to that.
And if you want me to save my questions till later, I can.
Oh, no, since we're on the section, I kind of like, instead of, hey, let's go back
Sure.
to that. So in regards to, I'm just gonna cover the bank really quickly. So the bank transactions for a lack of documented approvals was around 7%. Lack of supporting documentation came to around 3%. And then unknown business purpose was 1% of our total. And we tested 159 transactions. And then in regards to the P cards. Their lack of documented approvals was 83%. So that was not necessarily that it did not happen, but there was no documented. So there wasn't a physical signature or anything like that that we can definitively say, yes, it was approved. The lack of itemized receipt was 5%. A lack of supporting documentation was 5%. And then an unknown business purpose was 9%.
Could you repeat that one more time? The itemized receipts and then.
Sure, lack of itemized receipts was 5%, lack of supporting documentation 5%, and then unknown business purpose 9%. And then we tested a total of 99 transactions for that section. Any other questions before I move on to the next section?
Oh, thank you.
Yes, please. Sorry. I was just wondering the numbers you just gave, the percentages, what is the normal range or the expected range?
It all depends on our transactions that we select. So there's not really a normal percentage, but based off of, the amount of individuals who left your finance department, some of the other things that we found of your internal control processes not being updated. But yet, during interviews, it was changed and everything like that. It's definitely on par from what we expect.
Okay, thanks.
I guess let me ask that question a little differently. Is there like a national average or a standard that you would probably see? And how much above are we?
Not that I'm aware of, Jason, I'm not sure.
I'll take that.
And I'm just thinking like an 83% of lack of approval. I mean, that's pretty high when you're looking at the numbers of, I'm just wondering, like on average, what do you see And it might be hard to do that with a, comparison to the industry, comparison to the size, all of those things. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, so, good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Olson, partner with IBIS Forensic County Practice. I have the pleasure of working with Natalie on this project. To your question as to whether or not there's like an industry standard or an average as it relates to missing signatures, approvals, there's no industry standard. Every organization operates differently, and it's kind of in a vacuum, right? Because we know that there's some chaos going on with turnover, different personnel being involved, policies changes that may not be documented, right? But what I can tell you with doing this for over 24 years, what we saw in this particular organization is no different than we see in a lot of other organizations. We look at it as, yes, there are some issues. We'd like to see approvals on documents that didn't exist. It doesn't mean it wasn't approved, it just means we don't see the document to audit it, right? Because that's our job, we're trying to audit it. If we don't have that approval on a document, we can't audit it, right? When in fact, it very well could have been approved. And so what we see here is, again, something that is pretty common amongst many organizations. We're providing peace of mind over any sort of financial concerns. But what I do think, and you'll speak to this, is there's opportunities to make improvements to make sure that should anyone need to audit like this again, we have the proper records in place, the proper approvals in place, bank reconciliations done timely. And so it's really a goal forward. And so I can't point you to a national standard average. But what I can tell you is, for doing this for 24 years, that this is pretty common with organizations, especially when there's higher turnover. The two things that we normally see, high turnover, undocumented processes that change, that creates this opportunity for controls to break down. So
Thank you.
Can I ask this, a similar question, but slightly differently, and maybe we can get there, where I think you wanted to go. If people are following best practices, if an organization is following best practices, what would be the expected deviation from 100%?
So there's, again, if they're
Because I
following
mean,
best practices, yeah.
100% is probably
Yeah, it's
what
never-
you would
it's-
love. Accountants,
Let
but
me tell you, 100% is unlikely, right? That there's 100% adherence, right?
right,
Well, when we see more formalized policies, procedures that are documented, individuals are trained on an annual basis of all those policy procedures. We see much more adherence to the actual documented procedures, and you can audit that. So we see a higher likelihood that all the policy procedures will be followed in that point in time. And that's a big assumption that we don't have a lot of turnover. We have proper training when someone comes in to release some of their duties or their retirement or whatnot. So I can't put an exact percentage on that piece, but I know that percentage will significantly increase as we have documented policy procedures, proper training in place.
right. So the deviation, the problem areas would decrease.
Correct.
Is what the goal is, by having the proper policies, having proper training, having consistency in leadership to make sure that all of this is being followed, and that they're consistent with the accounting standards that we need to be following as an organization with this budget of this size.
You're spot on with that. And I think the other thing too becomes you just have better segregation of duties. The key controls are documented within those policy procedures, which is a lot of what we're talking about here today, which is the key controls that either are or are not in place. And if we observe situations where they are not in place, we made recommendations for consideration to strengthen those controls. And as Natalie's mentioned earlier, the organization's already taken quite a bit of progress about ensuring there's good proper controls in place to mitigate risk of error or otherwise.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so some other areas that we looked at was journal entries. So our testing focused on non-routine and unusual journal entries. So we ran these through our data analytics software for keywords, for days of the week. And that's how we selected our sample for this case. And based off of what we reviewed, the supporting documentation, we did notice that some entries did lack the supporting documentation for those journal entries. In regards to the petty cash, so the petty cash was really blended into petty cash and a change fund. So if you're not too familiar with the difference between the two, a change fund really is what it sounds like for change. So if somebody came in for $20, you need to have change, maybe if it costs $10 to give them, you know, that $10 back. Your petty cash, those are really for emergency expenses. And so when we tried to select a sample with those, there wasn't a master reconciliation. But the way we did select it was looking on the general ledger for anything that said replenishment of petty cash. And so we did find some of those. And based off of that, there was a reconciliation there. It just was not placed in the petty cash account. So we couldn't really identify if there was additional ones or not. And also the fact that there should be a difference between the two. There should be a difference between a petty cash and a change method. In regards to the capital asset controls, we did take a look at the physical inventory count that was done in 2023 for 2022. And we noted a couple discrepancies against what was actually recorded in your general ledger. So the physical inventory count sheet that was used did not accurately reflect all capital assets. So we're not saying that they were not recorded. They were just not reviewed to see if you actually had it on hand. And then as well as we looked at transactions and vendors that appeared to be capital assets or improvements of capital assets. And we identified some that may or should have been capitalized, but they were actually expense. So those are some that the health district should review to determine if that needs to be changed. We also did look at accounts payable and accounts receivable. So we took a look at your aging report. So anything that was over 90 days, we selected. And we noted just one, I believe it was an accounts payable that was reported in the wrong period. Very small amount, I believe it was over $100. Nothing too concerning, but we also did look at your allowance for bad debts. So we noticed that it wasn't really used until the end of December of 2024. Prior to that, it looked like the direct write-off method was used. And, you know, that really is not really gap compliant, doesn't go against the matching principle. So it really, you should have a methodology as to how much you are based off of, how much is, you know, past your 90 days or past 180 days. I do know you have, you do have a write-off policy, but it's just not being adhered to. Employee reimbursement, we took a look at those as well. And the way we identified transactions was individuals who had a P card and who had a substantial amount of reimbursements. We selected to take a look at those to see if those were in compliance with the health district's policies and procedures, as well as if they had any similar amounts. You know, one individual had $1,000 to $1,000 within a very short period. We selected those as well. And now we did notice that there was some self-approval on those. So the same person requesting it also approved it. And there was an absence of a formal relocation policy for one of the individuals we took a look at. As well as some supporting, missing supporting documentation as well. So moving on to the procurement, payroll and IT section of this is that we took a look at vendors and the proposal or contract amounts, and we took a look to see if that was in compliance with the policies and procedures, or if there was anything that was misappropriated there. And so we did notice that the purchasing policy thresholds were different than what we were informed during interviews. And the competitive quotes were not attached to what we received. And so that's what we found. But every vendor that we took a look at, they were within the amount that they were approved for. And so we didn't see any red flags there. In regards to payroll control gaps, we took a look at individuals who had a high variability between years. So if they got an increase in pay one year, we selected them and take a look at their PAF forms, personal action forms. And so we did note that they were all supported by approvals. There was the only thing that we had an issue in regards to payroll was a payroll change report that was not reviewed. or, able to be produced. And so what a payroll change report really helps do is to ensure that a PAF form is actually being completed for that, and it wasn't just bypassed. In regards to the information technology, I know there.
Ask one question about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if it wasn't produced, it wasn't able to be reviewed, is what you're saying?
Well, so for example, the payroll change report will show all your changes in the system of who increased pay or who, increased their salary.
Right.
And so if somebody's reviewing that, they can go, okay, does this person actually have a PAF form that was approved? If you're just relying on your PAF forms, that can necessarily not be done for a possible fictitious employee.
Thank you.
And so in regards to the information technology, so I know there was some concerns about the audit trail being turned off. And we took a look at that. We interviewed a former employee and we determined that the system actually did not actually have an audit trail. That was not turned off. We even spoke with the prior administrator of Great Plains, and they also said that they never had a audit trail turned on. Usually, if an organization that uses Great Plains wants a audit trail, they have to go with a third party that they usually recommend. There is an activity report. It's not the best report. It just tells you what somebody accessed. It doesn't really tell you what they changed of where they accessed it.
Does it tell you who accessed it?
It tells you who accessed it, but they could have just accessed it, not necessarily, okay, was it just an address that was changed, was anything changed? Doesn't tell you anything about. We did determine that it was based off of the former employee that the workflow was turned off, but the workflow history reports that we found was that there was no break in the workflow. There was one break in one of the workflows, which was just to approve accounts. So not necessarily your batch approval. So approving checks, that had activity throughout our entire scope period. So I believe it was based off of turning the specific individuals off. And that has to do with a lot of the employee turnover within the finance department. So things couldn't get paid without that workflow being turned off. The workflow report, unfortunately, did not show us when somebody was taken off or when somebody was added. It just tells you all the individuals that are able to approve within that workflow at any given time. So that's what we found out in regards to the IT. So there was nothing there that we determined that there was a misappropriation of assets or misuse of funds due to the fact of this potential workflow being turned off or audit trail being turned off. There have been a lot of improvements with the new systems based off of interviews that we have conducted. And so the new payroll systems, the new ERP systems that have implemented in 2025, they give you that audit trail. So you shouldn't have that issue anymore, as well as your change reports for your payroll. You should be able to run those now and review them on a consistent basis. All right, so moving on to our fraud risk. So based off of everything that we reviewed, all the interviews that we conducted for our scope time period, we put together what the organization's fraud risk is in the different period. So in the control environment, we determined that you have a moderate risk. And so in the report, you'll see all of the recommendations that fall within that control risk. But in summary, it has to do to your leadership turnover and your inconsistency policy enforcement. So the changing in your policies and procedures not being updated timely, that's what caused a moderate risk. In your preventative controls, again, you have a moderate risk here as well. And this has to do with a lot of your segregation of duties issues and your procurement weaknesses. In regards to your detective controls, you have a low to moderate risk. And that's due to inconsistent monitoring and documentation practice. So you're missing documents that we went over earlier. And based off of all these three environments or risk areas, your overall fraud risk comes to be about a moderate risk. And since I'm going to change to this next one, the recommendations and improvement. you'll notice that you have 53 recommendations and it all caused your moderate or your low risk that we identified. But really you have 44 or 53 that are already in progress or have been implemented. So that's 83%. So if we were to do another internal control assessment currently, I'm sure your fraud risk assessment would be a lot different. 3 of 53 based off of your agenda item have been opted not to move forward. And 6 of 53 are under consideration currently. So those will play a major part in your actual risk assessment currently. So other than that, that is our report. And if anybody has any questions or additional questions,
You go back to the last slide. The 3 of 53 have been opted not to move forward. What are those?
those, we were not privy to know what those are. That's just from the agenda, so it's relate to the if you're
Jessica's on, is Jessica still on?
She is.
Jessica,
Yes.
can you speak to the 3 out of the 53 that have been opted not to move forward?
Yes, I am looking at the report. Just identify, I think we were mostly, so one, that is coming to mind is, mandatory time off for employees. Is kind of like having a formal policy to force people to take time off so that their work could be audited. I can tell you that everybody in the finance department uses vacation time, and we have a lot stronger internal controls and stuff now, and more review of work and everything. But we were just that was kind of more of a human resources area where we were deciding not to actually have a policy requiring time off. Then another one was about
Jessica, what do you look at that? The one thing I just want to set kind of give a frame of reference with the recommendations. Based on our years of experience of providing civil service for many organizations, looking at financial controls. A lot of these recommendations are based on best practice recommendations. To segregate duties, to leave an audit trail for future reference, right? And so it's not uncommon that we make recommendations to organizations like yours where not all of them may be implemented because there may be an internal discussion where there may be a belief that there might be compensating controls, right? Or it doesn't fit within the needs of the organization. So for example, the mandatory time off, that certainly is the best practice because that allows us to have someone else jump in this place to do the auditing of their work. And not to mention sometimes that allows for discovery of something that may be improper, right? However, in reality, that may not always be the easiest thing to put in practice. And that's not uncommon that an organization like yours may go, okay, that's a great recommendation, but in practice, it might be difficult for us to do, or we already believe that we have enough people taking time off, or there's other people cross-trained to do their functions. So I just want to make sure that, as we talk through these recommendations, they're all for consideration by the organization. And it's not uncommon that not all of them are implemented, if that makes sense.
Yep. And I think you're asking for us to make you all aware of which ones,
Correct.
the specific ones that we are not moving forward and
Correct.
the purpose behind that. So we can work with Jessica to get that list.
Okay,
later,
Yeah.
that'd be
thank
fine.
you.
Yeah, so that
That's
you all
great.
are making the
That's what I was gonna say. So we do have the full list of all of the recommendations, and I have it notated, so I could send that over.
That would
And
be great.
we could get that to you so you can see which specific ones and kind of see the context of why we said,
That
thank
would-
you, but no thank you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
And I'd also, I guess I'd like to understand 6 of the 53 are under consideration. So what is being considered and what is the decision and the timeline for that?
Yeah, so we'll do the 9, and make sure that, okay, we've
Mhm.
got
Thank you.
good detail on those 3 and those 6.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And in the report, when you see it, you'll also see of the 44 of 53, what they did in those areas to actually implement those
Great.
after a scope period.
Great.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to thank the
Thank you so
folks
much.
at Eide Bailey, but also the staff for all your hard work on, providing the necessary information and making sure that we can move through this process and get to this report. So thanks all around.
Yeah, thanks for
Thank
taking the time
you.
to travel all the
Thanks
way
for
here.
Safe travels home.
All right, so we have come to the point in our agenda where we're looking at the consent agenda. So we're looking at the approval of draft meeting minutes from several executive sessions and approval of draft meeting minutes from the February 18th regular meeting, as well as Public Policy 2026 legislative session and bill updates. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
I'd like to have one correction in the minutes. It's not a big deal, but I didn't want people thinking I was running down to the Capitol. On page 7 of the minutes,
Okay,
it shouldn't, Thielen reported attending. It should read several elected officials town hall meetings. Take out at the Capitol. Those are all done in Fort Collins.
okay. So that correction about deleting the phrase at the Capitol on page 7, we've got that noted. Sir,
And several meetings, not just one.
okay. All right, so besides that, is there anything else on that before we move to approve?
Sounds good.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move as amended.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Got it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. So then on action items, we have approval of signatory for safety deposit boxes. And in our packets, there are resolutions 2026-03 through 08. Do we have any questions on that before we take the motion?
I trust Brian to go into the safety deposit boxes, and I know that's the purpose of it, so I'm good.
I'm wondering why we have 6 of them, but I don't know what we're protecting. Could be important.
we're gonna take a look.
Mostly board minutes.
Consolidation.
I think that might happen, yeah. So moved.
Great. So Lee's got the first. Who's seconding?
I will.
Okay, Julie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. Wonderful. Okay. So we are to the section on reports and discussions, and Jessica Holmes, you have Q1 financials for us.
Yes, let me just start sharing.
Say Jessica pulls this up, she'll be very excited in future board meetings to not have it be 9:15 where she is, because she'll be in Colorado here locally.
Yes.
Great.
Oh, when's that happening?
Yay.
I actually closed on a house in Loveland earlier this week. So as soon as the school year is over and my senior is graduated, we will be making the move. So
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Wonderful.
okay, so I lost my meeting screen. Okay, so we are going to talk about the first quarter financial results. And that would be the quarter that ended on March 31st. Okay, so in the first quarter of 2026, the health districts earned $5.87 million of revenues and incurred $3.58 million of expenditures, resulting in a positive change in fund balance of $2.29 million, bringing our ending fund balance up to $15.92 million. Of that, little over $14 million is our 4-month operating reserve and unassigned funds, giving us over 9.5 months of cash on hand. And this put us, we were over budget, under budget. So we beat budget by 947,000 for the first quarter. But it's pretty typical for, this time of year and everything, to have these positive months, and then after we collect all of the tax revenues, we really don't have any more revenue coming in, then we're just seeing the expenses, and that's when the fund balance starts to go down. So it's very comparable to trends from previous years. And it puts us in a good position to carry out the strategic priorities and goals that we identified during our 2026 budgeting process. Looking at the balance sheet, which can be found on, I believe, page 26 of your board packet, just wanted to point out a couple of the variances that you'll see. The cash increase, that's just a result of the positive change in fund balance. You'll see a decrease in property tax receivable, and then also deferred inflows of property taxes. And that's just really representing that collection of the property taxes. The accounts payable, that was just the timing of our the funding of our partnership with Poudre School District. So that's not, we didn't have a whole bunch of bills at year end and then paid them the next year. It was just one big invoice. Looking at the other portion of the balance sheet, that's where you'll see the decrease in the deferred inflows of property taxes. And then if you look at the fund balance section, those changes that you'll see throughout the various assignments of our funds, that is just the year-end update based on the resolution to appropriate funds that was completed in December of last year. And this also shows the year-to-date change in fund balance of the $2.29 million. Looking at the budget to actual review, which should start on page 28, You'll see that we were a little under budget on our revenue, but most of that variance was in tax revenues, and that can be a little tricky to pinpoint exactly. For example, we're only off by 2%, but it's over $100,000, so it makes it seem like more than it really is. For comparison, we've collected 43% of property tax revenues at this point, and in 2025, which that's where we kind of base how those revenues are going to come in. In 2025, we had only collected 44%, so it was just a difference of 1%, and it just makes a bigger impact because of the dollar value. A lot of the other revenue variances are really just due to timing, seasonal trends in service delivery, the timing of collecting our grant resources. So really nothing to be concerned about on the revenue variance. Then looking at the expenditure side of things, our biggest variances, so obviously we were under budget on all categories. A lot of this is also timing. I would say especially for professional development, capital outlay, a lot of those capital projects weren't slated to even happen until the warmer months. And the professional development, I think that is both timing of, when different things were planned, and also everybody in the organization having a professional development allotment is new. So we're still people are still kind of getting used to the fact that they have these professional development dollars to spend and trying to decide how to spend them and plan out their year accordingly. So I think we'll see that increase throughout the year and probably have the biggest spend on professional development towards the final months of the year. Personnel compensation, that would be due to vacant positions. So when we did our budgeting, as has always been the case in the past, we budgeted all positions for the full year. But the reality is those positions don't all get filled on January 1st. We have already discussed doing that differently for our 2027 budget to avoid the variances that are strictly due to vacancies that we already had going into the year. So we will be reassessing how we budget for staff in the 2027 budget, but that did make up, the vast majority of our variance to budget on the expenditure side of things. Looking at the revenues and expenditures from a functional standpoint, so this is where we see that breakout of program operations versus general and admin. And we really want to look at these numbers to make sure that most of our funds are going into our program operations. We want to make sure that most of our dollars are being spent on our mission and not just on managing the mission. So we do have a very good program expense ratio at 75%. So that means that 75% of what we spent was on our programs and only 25% was on general and admin. So the key takeaways from the first quarter, revenue variances are not a concern. expenditure variances really aren't much of a concern at this point either, with the exception of personnel compensation. I believe that the underspent personnel compensation funds should be reallocated to another purpose to avoid a large variance at the end of the year. And this is something that we've already been discussing a little bit to try to decide how we want to handle that. We do know that some of those positions that made up part of that are already filled, and there are others that are in the process of being filled. So we don't expect the variance to be as large every quarter, but there is a lot going on with kind of reassessing our staffing needs and everything right now, and how we want our various programs and stuff to look. So I do think there will be more savings in the following quarters, but not as much as the first quarter. But even though those positions are being filled, it's not going to change the funds that have been saved there. So that is kind of where the discussions need to happen, is just kind of around how to best reallocate those funds. And that doesn't have to be any kind of new budget or anything. It just, a change in forecast. And then just throughout the remainder of 2026, it's important that we keep our budget in mind to help our organization stay focused on its mission and strategic priorities, and making sure that we're spending the funds that we set out to spend in the areas that we set out to spend them. I think that it's been going really well so far. I'm seeing a lot more people being very mindful of what was in their budget and when they want to spend that money and how they want to provide community assistance or education and different things. So I think the team as a whole has come a long way with the understanding of the budget, and I'm really hopeful for how the rest of the year will go based on that change. Okay, are there any questions on anything I covered or anything that was in the financial statements?
Jessica, this is Julie. I don't have any questions, but two things. One is I'm very glad that you're moving here. That's fantastic. And two, I just want to give you a shout out because it was the issues that you raised last year around this time related to the financial concerns and all the updates and things that we needed to do here to, things that were starting in process before, but really in my mind raised an alarm about where we were, where we had been, and where we needed to go. So Jessica, it really was you, I think, bringing that to our attention that allowed us to go forward and commit to the forensic audit, which I think has given us a great deal of information about who we were, who we have become since 2024, and who we are continuing to become. So thank you. I just want to thank you for that, because I really appreciate your wise counsel in all the financial pieces that you've helped us put together, both in your role as the YPTC. Is that what it was? Is that the acronym?
Yeah.
Before you became one of us. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Jessica, I welcome to Colorado. I wish it would be in our area and not Loveland. We'll give you a little bit of, it's close enough. But I also just want to mention that our former director, Dr. Prowse, on his last meeting said this is really important.
Mhm.
And we really do need to emphasize and focus on this. And we, as a board, then made a commitment that we would. And so this is following through on that commitment for full transparency.
Yep.
So we can figure out how we pave a path forward. I would be interested, I certainly hope that with the dollars and the reconsideration for how those could be utilized, it can be focused on the type of partnerships that we have, like with the Irish Center, because I think that is really important to our community at this time.
And I have a quick question. I'm just curious about the program operations being 75%, the general and administration 25%, how that compares over the years. Do we have much comparison of where we've been previously with that breakdown versus what that trend has been?
So I will say,
What our goal would be.
yeah, so we are in that benchmark area. That is, a good, our ratio right now is a good solid ratio. I think in the past it looked better because in prior years we were allocating our admin salaries to the programs. So that made it look like we had less of an admin spend than we really did. So we changed a lot with how we're allocating things, even to the extent of we're not. So when we do our allocations of the things that we do, we have to allocate. We don't even do them individually to all of the programs. So like we're not allocating directly to dental or behavioral health. We're allocating to client experience so that the program managers can see what they're actually spending instead of having it all mixed together with allocations. So that'll help us really know what our true expenses are and help us budget better in the future. But yeah, I will say, I do think prior years, it was still similar. It was only off by a couple percentage points, really, but it did look better, but it wasn't as accurate.
Thank you. And I just want to reiterate what Julie and John stated and just thank you for what you brought to the team. And for someone, this is not my comfort zone, and you break it down in such a beautiful way that it feels manageable. And so thank you. I feel like I'm able to get a very clear picture with your description. So appreciate that very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I could explain things clearly. I know numbers can be very overwhelming and confusing, and making them make sense in words is the goal. So
Yeah. Well, you're gifted in that. So appreciate that immensely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. All right, I guess we're ready for our next item on the HR1 update.
Yes, I'll set it out for a bit, so I'm gonna be giving both the policy and the organizational related updates to HR1 tonight. Since Allison has been keeping you all abreast of the state's budget work and the corresponding difficult budget choices, as well as the fact that Colorado is facing a persistent structural budget deficit, meaning this is not going to be the first year of difficult decisions. I won't dive into those pieces tonight. But what I do have is just a couple of policy related updates for you, and then we can kind of go into what we're doing organizationally. So with the policy side, let's start with what's being called Reconciliation 2.0. So conservative think tanks and the Republican Study Committee, House Study Committee, are floating additional ideas that could further negatively impact Medicaid, Medicare, ACA, and other safety net programs through another reconciliation like an HR1 Part 2. Such as consolidating Medicaid and CHIP into a fixed block grant with zero growth, repealing the enhanced match for the Medicaid expansion population, and repealing the earned income tax credit. So that is being floated now. And then related to Medicaid work requirements or community engagement requirements rulemaking, CMS submitted an interim final rule to OMB this month that will establish the community engagement requirements for the Medicaid expansion population. Problem is, there's still a lot more to know about that. We are currently still waiting on some federal definitions related to some of the exemptions for that. And those are specific to caregivers and the medically frail. And we're also waiting for more information on the actual process for verifying and documenting community engagement. So the rule is expected to be before the June 1st deadline, but it's likely to remain hung up in at OMB for an extended review period. So quite a bit of lack of clarity. But knowing the lack of clarity in these key areas, at the health district, what we're really doing is participating in as many learning opportunities as possible. So we are attending work requirements work groups to really stay updated as much as possible in real time on what that process for community engagement verification is going to look like and what the exemptions are going to look like. We are attending Northeast Health Partners or NHP's Public Improvement Advisory Committees or PIACs. And we're also engaging in communications planning meetings. So we are attending HCPUF's member correspondence and meeting, which focuses on enhancing the communication of HR1 changes specifically to Health First Colorado members. And the Center to Advance Consumer Partnership, or CACP, is doing the work to create the shared communication strategy. And we had an opportunity to reach out to them and express an interest in participating in that message development. One key communication strategy that we know of is just simply involving encouraging Health First Colorado members to keep their information updated. So email, phone, address, etc., to make sure that they get critical updates about their coverage. But what I would say is overall, there's a sentiment that this remaining lack of clarity is really intentional because the federal government continues to be slow to access information. So regarding partnerships and exploring opportunities, we met with NHP. They are really excited to collaborate with us and connect us to other work groups and meetings to expand our collaboration, our understanding, and in some cases, the ability to actually provide input. And they also really support our commitment to aligning community messaging to avoid confusion. Through our library partnerships, Larimer Health Connect is already scheduled to host a minimum of bi-monthly health insurance literacy class in both English and Spanish, but they are prepared to increase those if in frequency if needed, depending on the rate of the information coming out. NHP has expressed wanting to participate in those with us, which would be awesome to really help support that messaging. And now we also have a monthly recurring meeting with our NHP rep to make sure that we're staying closely aligned and updated and really exploring additional opportunities to collaborate directly with them. Additionally, we are now working directly with Crossroads Steakhouse to pilot the placement of some of our health coverage guides at their Hive, which is their Family Justice Center, on a regular cadence. We believe that this is going to help support directly reaching the population that they serve in a safe and trusted space. But it also really supports the team in engaging with other partners who are also going to be on site there to really further our community's connection to LHC's resources. And finally, we just submitted our Connect for Health Colorado grant application. This year it is a 3-year grant rather than a 2-year grant. And this year we applied as an enrollment site
which does not change our work, but what it does is give us quite a bit more exposure. The application this year had some significant differences from in previous years. And what I think that we're really seeing with that is that we can tell that C4 is really interested in understanding more comprehensively the work that happens to provide education and assistance and avoid inappropriate coverage loss. So they're going to be looking at additional data to really understand the full value of what the assister sites and enrollment sites provide, not just enrollment. And C4's open enrollment report should be coming out. I told you a little bit about that in past. That should come out this month, so anytime now, and we'll share what we've learned from that. Hopefully, any question?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks. All right, moving on to the Board Public Policy Committee. So we have a couple of things to discuss here. I'm wondering if it would be more helpful to reverse the order in light of things that happened at the legislature today. Brian, what do you think about doing number 2 first? With HB 26-1300.
Sure.
What happened today?
You want me to give that overview?
Yeah, could you please?
Yeah, so 1300, which was introduced and passed through the House related to the ability for health service districts to add affordable housing to their service plans without going through the formal service plan change process, modification process through the municipalities and the counties. So it was introduced into the House, and we started as a monitor position. And then after some more discussion and analysis of it, we asked the Board Public Policy Committee to change to an amend position, and we offered an amendment to that because the language in the bill really spoke to how can the board add affordable housing to its service plan, but nothing about removing it in the future if there's interest in boards and sort of taking that from the service plan. So we offered that amendment. It was adopted, and once it was adopted, then we asked the Public Policy Committee to just go back to a monitor position. During that time, it had passed through the House, and then it went into the first hearing today for the Senate with sponsor Kathy Kipp, and it failed 6-1 today. So we had some discussion that we were planning for or Aaron and we want to discuss that in more depth, but it failed today this morning. So yeah, no further discussion needed unless there is.
Does anyone on the board have questions about that? Okay, I mean, it's dead now, so I wasn't anticipating questions, but just wanted to check. All right, great. So going back to the other piece, so Lee and I have had some conversations along with Brian and Allison about the kinds of bills that we want to support and how we would make those decisions. And so I think there's a couple of things that would be good for us to discuss here today as a board. One is the process by which we make decisions. And so we included the current board policy 99-7, and that one goes into like the priorities, how staff approaches, looking at legislation and which bills, will take priority and how we take positions and things like that. And then also the decision-making tree, just as a visual representation of the, the ways that we're going about that. So what else do I want to say about that is just that there are, hundreds, usually between 500 and 700 bills that go through the legislature every year. And in the past, and I'm not saying that we need to continue this in the future, but I've been casually and more formally watching the Health District Board for about 9 years now. And it seems to me that in the past that we've taken a pretty narrow focus on the types of bills that we will either support or oppose that are, if you will, they're kind of more in our lane or directly related to our work. But there's, I think, been some interest this year in maybe taking positions on broader topics. And so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the board and see, kind of what our feeling is on this. And it's not like we have to decide it today because we are getting toward the end of the session, but it is, since it's on the top of our minds right now because we're in the middle of the session, I thought it might be good to bring this forward to the board. So for example, like I don't think I've ever seen the board take a position on a hot button issue that was not something that the health district, deals with directly. But there may be an appetite for that now with the current board members. So that's the type of thing that that I thought would be important for us to discuss. So that would be the context I would give to it. Lee, you're also on this committee. So what context would you like to add?
Well, first of all, we ran into what I think is a problem, which is in March, if our meeting is with PBH and we don't have a regular meeting, there's no way remember, we are 5 elected officials, not 1 or 2, that we should have some kind of a special meeting on policy, even if it's a half-hour Zoom call. Because everything is happening in that period and we're not meeting. So there's no opportunity to have any input from, again, the 5 elected officials on issues of policy. And as I learned from public health a long time ago, policy trumps program. You can affect thousands of people with policy, if not more, maybe millions. So that's one thing that I think we should just kind of think about for next year, to plan on having some way to tap into the 5 of us on policy issues during March, if that's when we're meeting with PBH and we're not having a regular meeting. So that's one of my issues. The other issue is that, again, the way it's set up right now, and this policy is fine. It allows for all kinds of choices. There's nothing wrong with the policy at all. It does not have to be changed. But I do think that when Aaron and I disagree, we should take it to the full board. And again, 15-20 minute Zoom calls was what I'm talking about. And that's what happened this year. And so I'm really raising it as a practice issue, not a policy change, just as a practice issue that we don't have to decide today. But those are the weaknesses I was seeing in our current system.
Great. So I'd love to hear what others are thinking about this. What questions or thoughts are you having?
I agree that finding a way to meet during this time period, if we could make a practice that we could all agree upon. I know John will.
No, I think
Yeah.
we should change the joint meeting then to a different time that's not going to impact us in a time that we have there's no reason to have an additional.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fine.
Yeah, if we don't.
That'd
if-
be
Is that,
absolutely fine.
I guess if that's feasible for our joint.
That works.
meeting.
Okay.
I don't think UC Health would have any.
Go to June or
consternation
something,
about saying
yeah.
that we could find a
I
different
like that.
month to
That's
meet.
absolutely.
I think that's a better solution.
But I don't.
That's a
think
lovely
that-
thing. That's a
it-
lovely
I think
answer.
that's
it
better,
appears
much
that
I
better.
thought it was locked in, but that's
then
great.
I mean, I think we have to get out of this notion that we need to add more meetings. I
Yeah.
think that we have enough meetings. I think that we need to understand what the cadence is and how to integrate our work and be able to focus our priorities with the time that we've already committed.
Well, if
let's
we are
get-
able to
June or
realign
something,
PVH, then I think that would be wonderful. I think that, I wasn't sure how much like what that historically was determined by and if there's much wiggle
I
room.
mean, I don't really know either. I think that we just get into a routine, but I think Brian talking to Kevin and I could talk to Kevin about saying, hey, could we rethink what we have
March
this
is
for
just
us? It would be
fine.
preferable that we are able to still meet in March as our health district.
The other thing is if we do meet in June with them, then the new board members would be on street.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good.
After an election.
Yeah. I guess for me, the other question I have is like, can you give us an example of where there's some disagreement or
Yeah, sure,
where
we're
we
happy
would
to.
think,
We're
where
happy
we
to.
would think that there would be a
Right.
policy? I mean, I think I want to make sure that we're using our voice in the right ways and that it's going to be most impactful. And when we, my only concern will be, or pause, I don't think it's a concern, will be if we continue to use it more and more, will that actually lessen the impact when we are advocating for things that really do matter to us? So that's the only thing I'd ask. I don't have any preference. I mean, I think that these are interesting times, and I think that our voice could contribute and be in support and partnership, but I'm curious where the discrepancy or the difference was, Lee, between you and Aaron.
Sure. There was a bill called 11, it was our own Representative Basenecker's bill related to, and it's passed. I haven't heard that the governor signed it. It's passed House and Senate, so it's not like anything we need to worry about. We had no impact at all because we didn't know anything about it. And it had to do with the 3D printing of guns.
No.
And I thought we should take a stand because children die more from guns than they do from cars.
It's the #1 leading cause of death of children in Colorado. And yeah.
And I wondered, well, if we called it a suicide prevention bill, would we then say it was a good idea? There are a lot of, we all know we see it every day, what happens. And access to guns is a huge factor in gun violence. And Representative Basenecker gave an example of one teenager who created 25 guns by using this technology. And so what this bill was, it was to outlaw the creation of, these creating guns that way. It was amended so that you could have information about how to do it, because first he didn't even want people to have information about it. It was amended so it was allowed, you could have information about it, but you couldn't do it. So again, our involvement had nothing to do with what happened with the bill. It's just a nice example of when you run into these problems of, like I said, we have 5 elected board members that have a responsibility and have an obligation and an interest in doing the right thing. And I think 5 should be tapped into from time to time. That's it.
And if we rework the way that we meet, we can on some of these
Yeah, we would have
topics
talked
that
about it.
maybe seem
We would have
like
talked
they're
about
not obviously in our lane, but
Yeah.
are definitely a public health.
And can decide together.
It can decide
And
together.
we could have done it in March. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might take away the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Problem solver, you.
Yeah.
Are there any other, I can't see Julie or John. I can only see Lee and Sarah. So,
I'm
so
sorry.
Julie, is there anything that?
We're not
that-
doing
that-
That's for you.
We're not showing our best sides. in
That
then, are
is-
we?
Yeah, yeah, cookie.
Yeah, it's not, the camera's not jumping to you when you speak either. So I don't know what's happening there, but I'm listening, but I can't see. So Julie, is there something you'd like to add to this?
In terms of the gun issue, my first year on the board, I can't remember what the issue was, but it was something similar to that the board did take a position on. So even though it wasn't, because it was, I won't even say public health adjacent, it is
It is public health.
fundamentally public
preventive health.
Right. And I can't recall what it was. So it's certainly not outside the realm of what we should be doing. And there was another bill that came up and there were some members of the board who really wanted to support it and others who didn't. But of course, having the conversation and knowing about the legislation really helps us be good citizens as well. So even if we don't speak as a board, we can speak as individuals. So so I agree with John's excellent proposal to move the meeting to June for the reasons that he said, and I think also for the reason that I said, which is our brand new board members then would be introduced to UC
Yeah.
Health immediately, whether it's June or July, whatever's most convenient for the UC Health.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think that's a great idea to switch those meetings around. So thanks for being clever, John. And I will just note,
Surprised, maybe. We're surprised, maybe, I don't know.
I will just note also that in the past, a couple of boards ago, that the full board used to consider all the legislative questions, like we didn't send things to committee. So that's a pretty recent change where we're sending things to committee and having committee consider them before they come back to the board. So if there's an appetite for the full board to be involved in, you know, more legislative questions, then that's up to the preference of the board.
I guess I would offer as an alternative to that, in organizations that I've been in, boards do go on like a day at the Capitol and are able to meet with legislators and really be able to talk about our priorities from an organization. And many of us have great relationships with our representatives and our senators. And I think it would be an opportunity for us to have a unified approach so that when we do endorse a bill, or we know what bills we are monitoring and that we want them to understand the impact to our district and to the communities that we serve, I think that would be I'd welcome that opportunity to go down to Capitol Hill as a team and really be able to talk about with one voice the impact that we think that our services provide and how they can support that legislatively.
I love that.
Yeah, I
We
support
certainly
that
could
as
do
well.
that. The other thing that I know I did when I was the interim director is had them come in to learn about us. So I think both are the good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Offset.
And they've done that.
Obsession.
They've done that over.
Yeah, it's not
many
new.
years.
It's not new.
Yeah.
It's not new.
So maybe that's something that Brian, you and your team can figure out, because when we're looking at calendaring for next year, if we're going to have a day at the Capitol, then we would also want to build that in.
Yeah.
Because that is a very busy time of the year from January to early May. So
They're really busy. Yeah.
all right, anything else on this item about the Board Public Policy Committee? All right. So moving on then, we have Board of Directors reports. So who would like to start? Lee, would you like to start?
Oh, well, as far as activities, not too many. I did meet with Brian, which was very lovely. And I'm so happy that he's with us now. And I've been hearing really good things about him from everybody that talks to him. So it's all good right now. And I'm sure we'll continue to be so. I did on behalf of Brian's request and the policy committee, as a member of the policy committee, have a discussion with Jenny Arndt, our former mayor, regarding House Bill 1300, because she was one of the forces behind it. And we wanted to know what her motivation was and what she was thinking. So I did do that. Yeah. Haven't done much else other than that.
Okay, thanks. Julie?
I also had lunch with Brian and Courtney, and it was
Courtney too, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite nice to have that opportunity to chat one-on-one, two-on-one. Appreciated that and catch Brian up with sort of my perspective and where I'm coming from and my time on the board, and appreciated getting an opportunity to know him better as well. And Courtney, of course, is always delightful and lovely. I also went to the Sava breakfast, and while we sometimes don't think about the health benefits of organizations like Sava, Sexual Assault Victim Advocates, I think it's important that we do. And the breakfast, the keynote speaker really focused on PTSD and the need for mental health support. And the young man who won the award for Advocate of the Year was very focused on mental health issues. And so I think there's that lesson there. And the keynote speaker remarkably was a woman who was an Epstein survivor who talked about her experience in dealing with the darkness of PTSD and trauma, and how she found help through different sources and different organizations. So I think it's important for us to remember that piece of what is important in our community, to make sure that we're focusing on not just folks with mental health issues that are organic, but ones that are imposed upon them.
All right, thanks, Julie. Let's pop over to Sarah.
Oh. Yes, I had such a great time getting to meet with Brian and Courtney, and I just want to say, just really I wasn't able to be at the joint meeting in March, so I was working that Monday, but it's so great to be sharing in a meeting with you for the first time, and just want to officially give a warm welcome with all of us present and sharing physical space today. Yeah, so, and it's been great to hear how things have been going over the past several weeks. And Courtney, I just can't thank you enough for being the interim leader that you were. I don't think we could have asked for a stronger presence for what the health district needed during that time. And you were so incredibly new even to the organization, and you just did such an incredible job. So thank you for managing the ship. Yeah. And thank you for being, a very important mentor to Brian in these first several weeks in the coming months. And I got to meet with Dana, which was awesome. We just kind of sharing a clinical perspective. We got together for coffee and had a really great exchange and conversation. And I really appreciated being able to share kind of my perspective with Brian and Courtney during our lunch. And one of the things that just having Iris Center here that really brings up for me, and y'all are probably tired of hearing me reference it, but I just think it's something that is so incredibly important for us to be thinking about creatively, is because it's a very specific problem to Northern Larimer County, and that is our uninsured not having a place to go for preventative health care or just primary care in general. And that has such an impact, on just so many levels. And so I'm excited to have Brian here and the team, you guys being able to take the shape of the creative space for asking questions about how we, especially with HR1 having the impact that it's going to have over the coming years, how we can be creatively kind of help address that gap that's growing. And yeah, so I'm just really excited for those conversations, and also with the mental health needs, that knowing that we have still such a wonderful sort of foundation for a mental health program, but how we can optimize that. So I'm very excited for what's to come with our mental health services, and really optimizing what we can offer with directly, and also utilizing our community partners. So those are just very present for me. And it's just inspiring to see a group like the Iris Center addressing these, using their tools to come up with creative solutions. And I think we are primed for getting in there and coming up with some really creative ways to use our strengths as a health district to collaborate and overlap and do the same.
All right, thanks, Sarah. I'll go, and then we'll turn it over to John. So Yes, Brian and I have been meeting on a weekly basis. We've had very good productive conversations, and so I'm also happy to be working with Brian. One other thing is that Brian, Allison Williams, Rebecca Toll, and I went over to the Poudre School District board meeting. We met with some staff first, but then we were actually, the health district was recognized by the school district board for the stopgap funding that we provided for the behavioral health interns and fellows program. And they were just so grateful for that, that because it allowed them to post those jobs. I mean, they were at the point where they didn't even want to post the possibility of the position because it would create too much uncertainty if they didn't get the funding, then having to, like basically say, oh, well, we thought we had an internship for you, but we don't. So they weren't even going to post the internship. So us providing that bridge funding really allowed them to continue their program. And they were just so grateful for that. And so the school board thanked us for that. And so just wanted to pass along that that good news that that the school district is so pleased to be in partnership with us on that program and the other program as well. So that is what I have to report. So over to you, John.
Great, thank you. I don't know why I haven't gotten a lunch with Brian yet, but
Your schedule is now.
No, we'll get it on the books. We've been trying.
It is good.
Welcome, Brian. I know that we had our first meeting in a really awkward space because it wasn't here. And you did a fantastic job in your presentation to UC Health in that joint meeting. But this is really feeling like our first official meeting with you. So welcome. We're really glad to have you. And Courtney, thank you. I think we've been clear about how grateful we are to you and your service. I had the opportunity to meet and go to the Matthews House annual birthday bash this last weekend. And they are a great partner and do incredible work here in our community. So I think that's something that we all want to recognize. I appreciate the shout out to Sala. I think that is really important work. And I would also, just as a reminder, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I hope that we can celebrate our staff and also be out in the community, really being able to be highlighting the work that we do. So that's it for me. We had the ribbon cutting of MCR additional wing today with UC Health, and I was unable to attend. So that is my update for the PVH list. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, John. Okay. Brian, Executive Director report.
All right. Thank you all for the warm welcome. Well, kind of stole my thunder because I was going to start by again thanking Courtney for
Just go for it.
all of her efforts, time and commitment. I've heard nothing but positive things from staff about the stability you brought. And I know, we've done this in several spaces, but thank you again. Yeah, you've made my job so much easier to the space that we're at. So yeah, a lot of appreciation. So okay, so yeah, what I've been up to, I've been doing a lot of listening and learning, a lot of staff meet and greets. I updated my number because I think I'm at 31 now. So it's been great. Getting to know individual staff and going to team meetings and sort of hearing more about their work and their why behind their work at the health district and sort of what drives them and certainly their commitment to our clients, and hearing more about the challenges and opportunities in those conversations. So those have been great. I also scheduled quarterly office hours, open office hours for staff. So again, just trying to make myself accessible and be in a space where people feel like they can share access. So what else? So a shout out to Katie, our compliance officer. So she launched our all staff annual training plan through compliancing group. So that's great. We got some great annual trainings for staff to complete, which I'm super happy about. That we've got some structure there, so let's see. So on the mission vision refresh, so really, I mean, the board policy is that we have to do an annual retreat. And you all have to review the mission and vision and values. So since we are going to be doing strategic planning, we will work on sending out a doodle poll to figure out what's a good time that works everybody for a half-day retreat. And I think it's a great time for the board and for us to do some internal work around just reviewing the mission and vision and a refresh if needed. If not, great, but then it really sets us up for next year when we do some more strategic planning. So more to come on that. We'll get that doodle poll out to the board members soon. Other updates. So we had our employee engagement survey that was out open for 2 weeks. It closed on Friday. So we are working on compiling the results and comparing to the survey results from July 2025. But we had a higher response rate. We had like in the 80%. Yeah. And
Wonderful.
I think last year's was in the high 60s. So we haven't gotten the key trends and the key highlights of the themes, but certainly more people participate and we're excited about that. So Aaron, thanks for the PSD board meeting recognition update. Shout out to Allison and Rebecca for really helping us secure that partnership with PSD. That was great for them to get recognize us. Around our infrastructure system improvement, so we just put out an RFP for a new client management data system to replace the client database that has been a legacy database for the health district. And so we're excited to kind of see what applicants we get for that RFP and to really build upon our data infrastructure and give us some good data integrity and more functionality and operability with our data system and hopefully integrate with other, our EHR. So we're excited to see what we get there. I think that's going to be out for 4 weeks. So, and then lastly, we are doing a convenience sample survey up in Red Feather that our team has worked on. I don't know if it's been in partnership with the CHI contract, but okay, we're designing our head, so that's great. But really to put together a survey just for the Red Feather community to get some specific data and information on what their needs are. And so there's a team and I are going to go up there on Friday to sort of kick off that survey work with an event at their food pantry. And so yeah, that'll be great for us to get some data in some of our more rural communities. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any questions?
I wonder with the partnership with PSD, if you could access Livermore, their school there, Stoke Prairie, and also then up at Red Feather, they have their own elementary
Yeah.
school. So that's a natural subset that they might be able to actually
Okay.
get some data for you too.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, John. All right.
All right. Well, seeing as we have no other business on the agenda, do I have a motion to adjourn the April 22nd, 2026 Board of Directors meeting?
So moved.
I'm sorry, who was that?
I'm seconding.
John
John moved.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, see, I can't see him. So, all right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, and so that passes unanimously and we are adjourned at 8:14 p.m.